The next dude is a white dude I'm not afraid of at all, but he's funny. Give it up, everybody, for Eric Frost. Eric Frost, everybody.
How you doing? Great to hear. Thanks for sharing. I think it's hysterically hypocritical when a white supremacist walks into a tanning salon. You'd think they'd be outside picketing. I feel really sorry for white supremacists that drink coffee, because they must drink like the most horrible, shitty piss water coffee. You know what I mean? Because you know they'd be completely opposed to adding anything white, and they'd be totally pissed if anything black was good. I like white supremacists, see a theme here? I like white supremacists like in the 50s and 60s when they at least easily identified themselves with pink or like white stupid looking hoods. Now they decorate themselves in Armani suits and do talk radio, and it's harder to pick them out. A lot of people on the radio like to take on this, especially in sports, like to take on that Nick the Greek argument. Are you guys familiar with the Nick the Greek argument? That's when like the white sports broadcaster will try to explain and rationalize why black people are better at sports than white people. You know what I'm talking about? And they always get fucking fired after they're done doing it. And they should, because they're wrong. Black people aren't better at sports. They're not better at sports, not because they're black. Like, it's not the black that does it. Black is a color, not a character trait. You know what I mean? You can't act back black, you can just be black. If it really was the black that made you better at sports, if it was the darkness that helped you dunk, don't you think that white athletes would just inject themselves with melanin instead of steroids? If it was the black, right? You know what I mean? If that's what it was, if that was the highest common denominator, the most defining characteristic, every time Dirk Nowitzki missed a free throw, he wouldn't be all pissed off at himself. He'd be in there in a tanning booth, darkening up so he wouldn't miss again. If it was the black that did it, if that was what it was, if the black was what did it, Michael Jordan, best basketball player ever, right? If it was the black, he's not that dark. He'd just be mediocre. But Wesley Snipes could dunk from half court if it was the black. But that's what we do. We're more of a visual culture because we were so shittily educated. Thank you, America. And when you look at, like, we'll say a basketball court, because that's the sport most easily associated with black dominance in sports, you look at the sport, and this is applicable to all sports, but you look at it and you're like, oh, there's more black people on the court, it must be the black. But that's not the highest common denominator. The highest common denominator, the thing that most athletes have in common across the board, is their parents' annual income level. Poverty makes you good at sports. Desperation makes you great. If we got person A over here and person B over here, and person A's mommy and daddy have been stuck together forever, they enjoy themselves, they're in a miserable swamp of a marriage, but every time he gets done basketball practice at 7 o'clock, he goes home and eats a family dinner, and then he plays Call of Duty all night. You know, he might be a great athlete one day, he might be good, but if person B's the same level of athleticism, but his daddy's got a fucking drinking problem and hits him in the head with a hammer like he's Michael J. Fox every time he misses a three-pointer, he's gonna stay up a little bit later shooting free throws, you know what I mean? He's going to the NBA. Desperation makes you great. People with a good family background never wrote a poem or composed a sonnet. They never seized the day or had a dream. Poor people do that shit. And if you think about it, when did blacks start to come into sports? It was right when they got like all the rights and shit, and the easiest way to jump to the top was, sports, because that was athleticism. That was completely, the best got there. It was mediocratic. It was totally the way to get in. And then like in the 90s, because we're going to add all the races, we're not just going to talk about black people, because that would in itself kill the point. Who came into baseball? The Hispanic population, because that was the most poverty-stricken nation at the time. That was what, and poor sports. They're never going to invade sports like polo because they can't afford fucking horses. Right? And then like now in the new millennium, who's invading all the basketball now is the Slavic population, because they're the most poverty-stricken nation. They got no money, no food. They're sitting there in the brick rain and water shooting free throws. This joke should probably have a punchline. Woo. Now let's bash Jesus until we get the light. Round of applause if you guys believe in God. You guys are gonna love this shit. I think it's really funny because I met a girl the other day. I was in a restaurant and I sneezed and she said, "God bless you." And I was like, "That's funny. Do you know where that came from?" And she was like, "No." I was like, 500 years ago, people believed that when you sneezed, it was demons, like it was your soul escaping your body and that demons could sneak in. So they said, "God bless you," to block the demons. That's what they, I didn't make this shit up, this is a fact. And she was like, "Really? People believe that? People were that stupid?" I was like, "I know, it's so fucking ridiculous that people would be that short-sighted." Get this, 2,000 years ago, there were a whole bunch of people that believed there was some asshole that could walk on water. She didn't like that as much. But I told her, because I was reading the Bible. I read the Bible sometimes because I'm looking for loopholes. And what I realized is the Bible was written like 2,000 years ago, you know what I mean? And it was translated from Aramaic to Latin to Hebrew to English to English to English to English. Whew. And all they'd have to do in that millennium of translations is fuck up one word, and it could change the entire context of one of the miracles. You know what I mean? Just one word. Because like, let's face it, if you saw somebody walk on water today, you wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, Jesus is back." You'd be like, "Great fucking magic trick." Right? The only real magic trick that Jesus had was he was the last Jew to die with a full head of hair. So what we're gonna do is, before I get out of here and we bring up your headliner, you can clap for him now. Before we bring him up, I'm gonna take one of the miracles, I'm gonna change one word in that miracle to illustrate how one word could change everything. And in this particular miracle I'm gonna choose, changing the one word is gonna make it so everybody in this room can believe in it, even the rational people. So the miracle we're gonna choose is Jesus turned water into wine, right? Jesus turned water. Bullshit, obviously, not possible. Gotcha. But here's how it could have happened, so everybody can believe. Let's say hypothetically we were at the party where Jesus did this, all right? And Jesus is in the back of the party with his 12 friends, with his posse. And Peter looks outside and goes, he looks out and goes, "Jesus, we only got wine for 20 people back here. There's 40 people outside. We're fucked, Jesus." Because Peter was a potty mouth. But Jesus is a problem solver. Jesus looks outside and sees water, goes out to get water, comes back in with water, comes out with wine. Now, if you didn't know what happened in the back, you might deduce that Jesus turned water into wine. No, no, no. Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is the best explanation. The rabbit's been in the hat the entire fucking time. Jesus didn't turn water into wine. Jesus just put water into wine. If Jesus puts water into wine, what happens? More fucking wine. Jesus was the first guy to water down drinks. Now we can all believe.